Welcome back to The Takeout. Let me direct your attention to a live shot we have from Corpus Christi, Texas. That's President Trump. As we mentioned, as we went to break, he's in Texas right before Tuesday's primary. He is promoting his economic and energy policies there. President has not endorsed in this primary, and there's no indication he's going to endorse in this primary. Our Ed O'Keefe joins us from Corpus Christi right now. There you are, Ed. Let's deal with the first thing we need to clean up. Did the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, buy anyone their gallons or more of gasoline today? Yes or no?
Our understanding, Major, is that he did. In fact, he was buying so much gas that his own credit card was turned off by his bank, and he turned to an assistant secretary of energy and asked for hers. So, yes, they were pumping gas and paying for it today in Portland, Texas, which is just on the other side of the bridge. $2.59 a gallon there, 1 cent below the statewide average of $2.60, and below the $2.98 national average, which is down considerably since a recent high in June 22 of about $4.60, but up just in the last month or so, Major, in part because of concerns about what might transpire in Iran. We asked the Energy Secretary about that. Listen to his response. There is one administration policy being debated right now that could cause a spike again, and that is potential military action against Iran that would cause instability in that region and potentially disrupt production and distribution. So are you factoring for that or concerned at all that they could spike again?
Yeah, well, I think they're up a little bit right now based on that. But what's critical for this administration is that with American energy dominance and our alliance with other major producers in the world, that he can pursue a foreign policy that makes sense geostrategically and not, I can't do anything because it'll make gas prices go up. Look, do you want a nuclear-armed Iran, the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world, a huge troublemaker in the Middle East? Think of how the Middle East would prosper if we didn't have the threat, a looming threat of Iran over our head. So the president is all in to try to end the risk that Iran poses to the Middle East and to the broader world.
So if, and I emphasize if, we're in a situation in a month where something is up in Iran in terms of U.S. military engagement, but this Venezuelan oil is coming into the United States, where are gas prices?
Absolutely, it helps push gas prices down. More Venezuelan crude coming into the United States and flowing out of Venezuela helps keep gasoline and diesel prices down, whatever happens in the world.
People that are running, we don't even have the polls yet, but they're...
Energy analysts will dispute the secretary a little bit on that because OPEC producing nations, in fact, are going to meet this weekend to talk about the potential to increase production ahead of any instability in Iran so as to not upset supply and not cause a big price spike. But the point he's making is essentially now that this Venezuelan crude is arriving and it's on that blue ship right there, Major, it's going to help replenish American supply and perhaps not disrupt it as much were there to be mass chaos and disruption in oil production across the Middle East.
Not a backdrop we would have expected 6 months ago, a Venezuelan tanker with Venezuelan oil right there in Corpus Christi. But get to the politics, Ed. Run my audience through this three-way Republican Senate primary and the tenterhooks that the Senate Republican leadership finds itself on and Senator John Cornyn finds himself on ahead of Tuesday's voting.
Just as we were coming back on the air, Major, he was finishing his litany of Republican officials who are here, and he name-checked all three who are on the ballot for that U.S. Senate seat next Tuesday on the Republican side. So Senator John Cornyn, who has served for 24 years, facing a two-pronged challenge, as you mentioned, from the Republican Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who is also here, and the Houston area Congressman Wesley Hunt. Cornyn flew here to Texas with the president on Air Force One because as the sitting senator, he's afforded that courtesy. Senator Ted Cruz was with him as well. He was asked a little while ago before this event began, have you endorsed? Why won't you endorse? He says, well, not going to, but I have made up my mind. But he refuses to say who exactly he'd support. Why not John Cornyn? He's been a relatively reliable vote for the president. Just didn't endorse him as quickly back in 2024 as Wesley Hunt did and as Ken Paxton did, but did come around, didn't vote for his impeachment. You know, has been a rather reliable acolyte, if you will. The issue is that Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt are perhaps more aligned with the modern-day Texas Republican foot soldiers, the MAGA movement in this state. They've risen in the ranks since Trump 1 began, whereas John Cornyn, who has served in public service for more than 40 years, is more of a Bush-era, go-along-to-get-along, compromise-style Republican that Wesley Hunt and Ken Paxton would argue is out of touch with Texas Republican values. So, first round of the primaries on Tuesday. Second round, if somebody doesn't win 50%, is in late May. As you mentioned, Senate Republicans have been spending big money against Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt to try to suppress their support and hope that Cornyn could either eke it out on Tuesday night or face one of them in that runoff. But it would be an expensive prospect at a time when Democrats are considering James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett. And polling suggests no matter which Republican emerges, at least Tallarico would have a fighting shot at taking back a Senate seat that Democrats have not won in this state, Major, since LBJ was in the Senate. And a Democrat hasn't served in Texas, in a Texas Senate seat, since 1988. You know this, when Lloyd Benson was reelected the same night he was rejected as Michael Dukakis' running mate.
Ed O'Keefe covering all the bases for us in Corpus Christi, Texas. My appreciation to you, sir. Thank you so much. We will have special coverage of the Texas primary as well as the other events on Tuesday night, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. I will be anchoring, that's pretty good news, I think, right here on CBS News 24/7.